the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
We're tuned in to Rebooting Liberty.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
We are today facing a full-fledged constitutional crisis. The answer is not a monarch from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down.
You're tuned in to Rebooting Liberty.
Don't wanna wait till tomorrow. Why put it off another day?
Greetings, fellow patriots and lovers of liberty. This is Jared Day coming at you from Phoenix, Arizona on this Monday, November 16th. This is the Rebooting Liberty radio show, and I thank you for tuning in. This is the first show done on our new network we call the Rebooting Liberty Radio Network. Yes, we launched a network at the beginning of the month, and we're replaying some of the great internet radio shows, conservative new media, and we're also starting live broadcasts. We're always looking for voices, new voices out there. We can provide startup services like audio production, show intros and bumpers, and we will produce the show. So if anybody has wanted to get their voice out there, contact me through the website, and that is at live.rebootingliberty.com. So it's like our main site, rebootingliberty.com. It's just a subdomain, live.rebootingliberty.com. And you can see what we have to offer there. There's some great programming. We're a partner network to K98 Talk, and we have affiliations with Tavern Keepers Radio Network. That's TK Radio Network. Some great shows, including Flight Society, Trevor Loudon's Loud and Clear. And we're also affiliates with SHR Media. That's Sackheads Radio, and they have a whole slew of great shows on there. And also Conservative Commandos Radio Network. That's WNCJ 1360, and that's Philly, I believe South Jersey. And that's Conservative Commandos radio show is on every day. That's a great show. And you can go to the site live.rebootingliberty.com to listen to it. There's a chat room. Hopefully we're going to get that going. And also, if you're on your phone or you prefer, TuneIn Radio. It's a great app. 24/7, we're on there. And we actually are running 2 streams. We're running some replays, and then one's going to be just live and replays when it's not live. We're also on iTunes, which I'm surprised we're getting a lot of listens on iTunes. Stitcher Radio, Player FM, YouTube, and you can support us by following or subscribing. If you end up liking the show, we'd appreciate it. You'll find us if you want to find us. But, well, I get the feeling that people, speaking of what happened in Paris on Friday and the weekend, just people are deeply saddened. But from what I've seen, starting Sunday, really, maybe, people are amped up. People are pissed off, charged, and I haven't seen this even in myself in quite some time. I think that people are not just people that are paying attention. People are coming to the realization that they take in 100,000. We get 100,000 Syrian Muslim refugees, which are mostly men of fighting age. even people that aren't paying attention are thinking, you know, well, hey, these could be sleeper cells. They could be going straight into Muslim no-go zones once they get here. And people that are paying attention already know that they're everywhere. These radical jihadists are everywhere. The FBI confirms it. I believe they're in all 50 states now. And they are south of the border, not too far south of the border. And the Garland, Texas attempted attack where our beloved Second Amendment saved numerous lives with a headshot or two. Those pieces of garbage actually lived 12 miles from my house, my family, and their mosque is approximately 4 miles from where I live. And following that whole debacle, there was a protest at the mosque. And it's just, people are amped up. They do not want these people coming into the country at this time. This issue, whatever candidate glams onto this thing and sticks with it, they're going to have support from places they didn't know they were going to get support, because people are amped up. And what's going on is it's an invasion, and it's been going on for a while. When the borders open and they're putting people into cities, children from way south of Mexico, it's moving them in, getting safe passage through Mexico. That's an arrangement with the Mexican government, and putting them all over. That is planned, and there's actually people have pieced together information. You don't have to be a rocket science to figure it out. But here's, I don't know, round 2. It could be round 10. But this is what's happening with these refugees and what they predict even next year. It's an invasion. It's a Trojan horse. And we got to do something about it. I don't think that anybody's going to stop it in our federal government. There may be people in the state government, like, for instance, our governor here in Arizona today, Doug Ducey, declared that we will not take any Syrian refugees, and I commend him for that. All the governors need to do that. We have to crush this. So I put together this little piece of audio because I was so struck when Ayatollah Obama told Stephanopoulos in an interview that ISIS was contained. Yeah. And then I contrasted it with something Ted Cruz said about it. Actually, I'm not going to play that. I am going to play something Ted Cruz said about immigration in the last debate, and it's pretty good. But check this out.
Rebooting Liberty.
Senator Cruz, entitlements. You've argued for raising the retirement age and reducing benefits for future retirees. But reducing any sort of benefits for the elderly has always been notoriously hard to do politically. When Speaker Paul Ryan proposed replacing traditional Medicare with federally funded private plans a few years ago, a Liberal group responded with a commercial that featured a granny being pushed off a cliff. What's going to be different this time?
Well, my mom is here, so I don't think we should be pushing any grannies off cliffs. And you misstated what I've said on entitlement reform. What I've said is for seniors, we should make no changes whatsoever. For younger workers, we should gradually raise the retirement age. We should have benefits grow more slowly, and we should allow them to keep a portion of their taxes in a personal account that they control and can pass on to their kids.
I said for future retirees, as you said.
Now, I want to go back to the discussion we had a minute ago because, you know, what was said was right. The Democrats are laughing. Because if Republicans join Democrats as the party of amnesty, we will lose. And you know, I understand that when the mainstream media covers immigration, it doesn't often see it as an economic issue. But I can tell you, for a million of Americans at home watching this, it is a very personal economic issue. And I will say the politics of it would be very, very different if a bunch of lawyers or bankers were crossing the Rio Grande. Or if a bunch of people with journalism degrees were coming over and driving down the wages in the press. Then we would see stories about the economic calamity that is befalling our nation. And I will say, for those of us who believe people ought to come to this country legally and we should enforce the law, we're tired of being told it's anti-immigrant. It's offensive. I am the son of an immigrant who came legally from Cuba to seek the American dream. And we can embrace legal immigrations while believing in the rule of law. And I would note, try going illegally to another country. Try going to China or Japan. Try going to Mexico. See what they do. Every sovereign nation secures its borders, and it is not compassionate to say we're not going to enforce the laws and we're going to drive down the wages for millions of hardworking men and women. That is abandoning the working man.
He's spot on there. Totally spot on. Okay, I got that other clip with Obama talking about how ISIS is contained just before that massive attack in Paris. Here you go.
An historic situation in Paris. You're tuned in to Rebooting Liberty.
We were inside the stadium, and approximately half an hour after the beginning of the game, we heard two big explosions.
Give it up.
Well, I don't think they're gaining strength. What is true is that we have contained them. They have not gained ground.
Police are just storming a concert hall. We don't know the exact number. It could be 100, more, less, being held hostage.
We have contained them.
Is unwilling to utter the words radical Islamic terrorism.
In Syria, they'll come in, they'll leave.
Right now we have a photo op foreign policy. Drop a bomb here, a missile there. You know, the radicals say they reject modernity. Great. We need to send them back to the Stone Age. How do you do that? You have a commander-in-chief that lays out a clear objective. We are not going to weaken. We are not going to degrade. We are not going to pinprick ISIS. We are going to destroy them. We are going to make, if you join ISIS, you are signing your death certificate.
Yeah. Damn right. Okay. Well, we have a special guest today, and he's been on before. He's a veterans advocate here in Phoenix, and he's a veteran himself, and he's been fighting for years to get the care he needed, and he's learned so much about the system, he's learned to help other veterans. Now, this year he gained some traction, and he made a lot of progress. He has his own organization called Evincible Vets, and he recently organized a protest in Phoenix, and the local mainstream media went to his house and interviewed him, went to the protest, then he went into the studio, and I look on the web yesterday, and I see there he is on U.S. News and World Report being quoted. So it's a great privilege and honor to have on here Ricky Barnes today. I believe he is on the line with us now. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay, I can hear you. So I must.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah. So I introduced you before we had the technical problems. I gave a little intro. So if you want to go, let us know about the protest and how all that went.
Okay, yeah, we can go into the protest. And once again, like I said, I'd like to
thank Rebooting Liberty for having me on once again to discuss the issues that continue to plague the VA system.
Very welcome.
Yes. And, I know you just mentioned about the protest that took place on November the 9th in front of the Phoenix VA Medical Center. We did the protest. It went extremely well. We reached out to a lot of the public, civilians and veterans, and all of like, and supporters as well. They showed up to give us support as well as veterans. With that, we had news coverage, media coverage. We had information that was posted on Facebook, Twitter. So the protest was very positive thing, and it's something that's going to lead to, it's more like a springboard that's going to lead to more protests in the near future, especially if the VA system does not change the way they do business for the veterans.
Definitely. Yeah. And even the morning before the protest, they were there when it was dark out in front of the VA talking about it on Channel 15.
Yeah, and even before that, they was in the morning. Then the day prior to that, I even did an interview with ABC 15 News. They did an interview with me covering information and gathering information about what's taking place at the VA system. And, it was informing me why things haven't changed and what is needed to make changes at the VA system. And, of course, you hear in the news all the time that the VA system is changing, it's getting better, but they have a long way to go. I would like to correct that. The answer is the VA system is not changing. Matter of fact, it's getting worse, and changes are definitely needed to be made within the Phoenix VA. Well, all of the VAs across the nation, but especially with the Phoenix VA Medical Center.
Now that you mention it, I do have that audio from that one interview. I'm going to play it, okay? Here.
Okay.
Mallory, 6:04 now, and in just about an hour from now, a protest is scheduled to start outside the Phoenix VA.
Yeah, the group demanding changes following a series of very high-profile scandals, saying that facility is not doing enough to help our Valley veterans. ABC 15's Katie Connor live near 7th Street and Indian School with more. Good morning, Katie. Of course, we all have heard about the VA scandals.
Yeah, we first heard about the scandal more than a year ago, and fast forward to today, the problems are still plaguing the VA system, especially right here in Phoenix, where the whole scandal started.
I've experienced delayed appointments, denied appointments.
Those are just some of the issues veterans are still facing, even though we learned about these problems more than a year ago. Ricky Barnes is organizing the protest today. He says it's not just that the system is broken. There's a huge problem with administration. He says that they are not fighting for veterans, and until the culture changes on top, veterans will always get pushed around.
If those individuals do not come in and make sure that the veterans are taken care of, then they have to make a message known, send out a message that if you don't take care of the veterans, within 6 months to a year, your job position is going to be deleted as well. We're going to replace you. And this is the thing, we're not filling these positions with quality people or even people who are concerned with the veterans.
More than 60 people are expected to attend the protest today. Barnes says it is welcome to anyone, though, who wants to attend. Of course, we have that information on our website as well. Danielle?
All right, thank you.
There you go.
Yes, and that was the interview. And, I'd like to touch on a couple of the topics that I talked about or discussed with the news is, about change in management within the VA system. And, of course, I've received wording that Mr. Griffin, the head director, Mr. Glenn Griffin, will be leaving the VA. They will not be extending his contract. And, of course, they put that in the news weeks ago. But that is something that, from, Phoenix VA intel inside the VA, I knew that, months ago that he would not be extending, they would not be extending his contract. And it's well deserved that he does not have that contract extended. He has done a terrible job. It's been so many VA covers up within the VA system that he's protecting these employees at the VA system. And this is what happens when you have corruption at the top of the Phoenix VA system. It filters down to the other employees, and they tend to do the same thing that these top-level employees are doing as well. And so they can probably, put the flowery words that he's leaving on his own or he's making a transition. No, he's leaving because of the incompetent job that he's been doing at the Phoenix VA Medical Center. And I knew this months ago that he would be leaving, and it just been confirmed before it even came out in the news.
When you go to a
That's
medical
an autoplay
clinic,
video.
you have an
Sorry about
expectation
that. I can't
that
stand these. Yeah.
That's no good.
And they all have each other's backs, and it makes me wonder if he's done such a horrible job that his superiors could no longer cover for him.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's the point to be made is the with the statistics, and you don't even have to take the words of the veterans. Just look at the progress from statistics reports. The Phoenix VA Medical Center is getting worse. It's not getting better. The delay times have been extended, and they still are using process and procedures within the VA facility to extend those wait times. And I've uncovered that process. Is when you go see your doctor, they take that information and send it over to maybe a specialty clinic. That information or that appointment for a follow-up will sit in the system for 2 or 3 weeks before a veteran is even called, and sometimes longer. It could sit months, or they could even cancel that appointment, so a veteran would have to start all over again.
And if they don't call, right? If they don't call, they get accused of being non-compliant, or they'll set an appointment and they won't tell the patient, the veteran, to come in, and then they'll miss it. Stuff like that go on.
Oh, yeah, and that happens all the time. And as of Friday, which I do have it recorded also, as of Friday I had to go through about a 2-hour conversation with the Phoenix VA Medical Center and also with TriWest to get an appointment established. And if I wouldn't have taken that initiative on my own, as November the 23rd that is coming up without having an appointment at the VA, I would have been hit with a no-show if I would not have made that appointment, waiting on an appointment outside the VA for a non-VA doctor. And it so happened the doctor that they had me scheduled to see at the VA hospital is a doctor who just got hit with a malpractice lawsuit, and that individual won that lawsuit of $3.2 million. And I was wondering, how did they schedule me with a doctor in the VA facility that is not practicing medical care properly and also providing false information to the federal court system? So These are the things that take place within the Phoenix VA system that has never made it to the news.
Right, and that's just downright dangerous.
Exactly, and so what they're doing is they're allowing this doctor, Cranford, to continue to operate on veterans without explaining to the veterans themselves what procedures has changed, what have they done different to correct the procedures within the VA facility. And so these are the things that do not get outside the VA facility, especially to the veterans. And the only way, a lot of ways this information is retrieved through the system is because we have whistleblowers. And, of course, that's another issue of mine is whistleblowers as well.
Yeah. Well, since you brought it up, I was going to ask you, there's a watchdog group, the Office of Special Counsel, and I guess
Correct.
A couple months ago, the VA was firing the whistleblowers, and they called them out on it, and they had, they got Freedom of Information Act requests, and they got all the documentation to prove that they were actually doing that. And it doesn't look like since then they've changed it. They can still fire the whistleblowers. Right, and that's the problem that's taking place is whistleblowers can come out. If you notice in the news, all the individuals who have been in the news that the whistleblower has came out against these individuals, they are still employed with the VA facilities. They haven't taken any disciplinary action has been handed against them. The only disciplinary action that has been handed down are to the whistleblowers, those individuals who are speaking up for veterans' rights and veterans, and they want to see a change within the VA facility. Those are the ones that they do have a protection, more like umbrella protection thing for them, which is called Accountability Act. But the Accountability Act is not working and is not saving the whistleblowers from retaliation from within the system. Yeah, it's ironic they call it the Accountability Act because that's one of the, I'd say, the top 5 problems is there's no accountability at all throughout the entire system.
And that's exactly it. And I feel like what the system is doing is they're forcing these whistleblowers to go out here once they're being retaliated against and being, mocked, being a mockery within the VA system. They're forcing these veterans, these whistleblowers to go out and file a federal lawsuit against the VA system itself. And that's another problem within itself. So if they don't find a way to protect these whistleblowers, all you're going to do is have, federal lawsuit piled up on top of each other, where these individuals have to prove themselves correct in the court system. And I just don't agree with that.
Right.
I just believe that the VA system should design a system where they can pay these individuals for bringing this information forward. Whatever the dollar amount is set, that if you find anyone who is abusing the system, abusing veterans, it could be more like a call in and give the information, and they should be able to pay these whistleblowers money for the system being corrupt for itself.
If the system was a good system and it was functional and it was just, like you said, a whistleblower would be appreciated, and it's not the private sector; it's a federal government funded, and it's almost like it's the bureaucracy and the employees of the VA versus the veterans. That's what it looks like to me as an outsider, just the little microcosms that I've seen of it,
Right, and to go even further, this is what happened with whistleblowers. Whistleblowers, once they do come out as whistleblowers, they try to maintain and keep a silence within their own self, because they don't want to speak out for veterans, and veterans groups and things like this, because they're suffering so much retaliation that it's becoming a sad process, that it seems like the more whistleblowers come out, the more the VA system try to keep silence on these whistleblowers. And even with that being said, it's even worse for veterans who do not even work for the VA system, for veterans who come out and they label themselves as whistleblowers, like a veteran as myself, as labeled as a whistleblower. My name is, it's tainted within the Phoenix VA hospital because I'm speaking up for veterans' rights. Because I spoke up for veterans' rights, I have been denied medication, I've been denied medical care. And we're not talking about for months, we're talking about for years. This has been proven within the patient advocacy office. This has been proven with documentation, and it's been proven with recordings. And even though I provided the system with accurate information and recordings, they are still trying to cover up these issues within the Phoenix VA system. So can you imagine me, a veteran as myself who has credible evidence, having such a hard time changing the system? Can you imagine what happens to those veterans that just voice an opinion with just voice only?
No, it's...
Exactly. And so these are the things we need to change within the system, and to make it the VA system needs to come up with some type of bill that protects the veterans from being retaliated against within the system itself, and they just don't have that. And I know I spoke to you about that before, that I sent all of my information to the Washington IG team. I sent it to the VA IG team, and they took my information and sent it right back to the Phoenix VA to the people that I was complaining about.
They didn't even give it a look.
And what was that, Jared?
They didn't even give it much of a look. They just put it right back in the mail.
Yeah. They generated a letter on September 8th. That was the head director, Mr. Glenn Griffin, trying to respond to me and informing me that I've never suffered any problems with the VA, that they've never denied me medical care. He responded that kind of way. And I'm like, how is it possible that Mr. Robert McDonald can allow this to take place within the VA system?
Yeah.
That when a veteran has a credible complaint against the VA system, the information is sent back to the individuals you're complaining about.
And John McCain, I saw the letters that you, or two of them, that he sent you, and it was nothing. It was almost as bad as when you spoke to him and suggested the program like the choice card, and he said it was, what did he say? It was crazy?
He told me that program was a foolish idea when I presented it to him, man. Of course, I told him all veterans need to be outsourced and have the option for non-VA care. And he turned around within quick of a breath and said, no, that's foolish. That's a foolish idea. And, of course, we know how that turned out in the near future. That changed within Congress, and now veterans are being outsourced for non-VA care, but they still have that problem wrong. That program implemented incorrectly. And if he would have just taken the time to sit down with me and listen to my whole plan that I wrote up for him, he would have got the idea that this should not be called a choice card, but it should be called a veteran option card. And that's the thing that he missed out on, especially after he called it foolish and then turned around and presented it to Congress as if it was his idea.
Yeah. I'd say that the only people he listens to are the lobbyists and people that do things for him. He doesn't. I really think he's completely lost touch with what any constituents here want from him.
Exactly, and it's just such a sad process that you have an individual in a position who, is a POW, who uses POW status as a reason to move up the chain in the political world, but he does not use that POW status to make sure or ensure veterans receive the same type of health care he received. I have told him on several occasions in the past, from 2005 all the way up into 2014, why don't he use the same VA facilities that every other veteran has, that every other veteran is forced to use, especially when he's receiving 100% disability compensation from the VA system.
Exactly.
Why is he not using the VA system? And it's obvious. That means he don't trust the VA system, himself.
No. Nope.
So, and I like to make it very clear, that he, you constantly see him writing letters, or when something comes out, for the VA system, he's quick to write a letter as if he didn't know these things was taking place. He's knew about this for quite a long time. I even wrote a letter to him before the VA scandal even took place, informing him of the delayed appointments, informing him of the deaths at the VA facility. So he had this knowledge before the VA scandal was even brought out in the news, and he did nothing. He pushed it under the rug. His constituents, when I told them about this information and told them about what was taking place to me, their exact words is, Mr. Barnes, the VA system is effing you. I would say the exact word that they use, but I'm just saying effing.
Yeah.
I'll keep it rated G. Now, that came from his constituents, and yes, I have that information recorded, so I don't ever want to be caught in a position where they said, he said, she said information. So what I'm saying is most of the time I got it because it's recorded and it's documented.
Yeah. Well, now that he's coming up on a re-election, and some people have said that this is the cycle that he's gone. I mean, he doesn't have that many left. He's going to be 80 years old, but he's going to change his tune about the VA, and he may do a few token things to make it, so that people can't say that he's done the VA wrong. But his track record just in this term of his as senator since 2010, his track record is bad. He's cut funding. He hasn't done anything for the vets, and he hasn't listened to anybody.
And that is absolutely correct. You couldn't have said it any better. And I'm not me personally, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I just follow those people for what's in their heart. And I know the only political person that's in Arizona, politician that I know of, that has given veterans any attention is Senator Kelly Ward from Lake Havasu. She's the only one that has done anything for veterans. Even on Veterans Day, she set up a meeting and a function for the veterans and recognizing veterans. I sent Senator McCain a letter and invited him to, the protest on the 9th, the protest on the 11th, and to these functions. He declined to even, he declined to even send a representative on his behalf. So these are the things that, and I do have that letter where he declined to send anyone. So it's just sad that he does not come forward or didn't do anything for Veterans Day right here in Phoenix at Ground Zero where the VA scandal took place.
No
so
doubt.
That should just let the voters know that if you keep voting for this individual and keep putting him into office, and especially I'm talking to the veterans, you will receive no care, no attention from him or his office. And I've been doing this since, by letters. I've been doing it since 1999, but by letters, what I can prove, from 2012 up until now, he has thrown everything under the rug, and they have not paid attention to anything that's taking place at the Phoenix VA.
Yeah, and he's representing D.C. in Arizona, not the other way around. He's supposed to be representing us in D.C., but he's in D.C., and he's coming here representing D.C. He is not doing his job in any way. And the VA, like you were saying, POW status, and he uses that for political gain, but he does not back that up with standing with the veterans, passing legislation, writing legislation, influencing legislation that helps the veterans. He's I got a lot of words, but I'm just going to say he's a disgrace.
It's extremely a disgrace to, to the state of Arizona first off, and then second off, it's to the veterans. So we can flip those around, veterans first in the state of Arizona. But it's just so sad that we only hear from, Senator McCain is when the VA makes the news. No, we should not hear from him. I believe we should see him every month at the VA. Once a month, he should go up there to find out, talk to veterans, has the system changed, and he has not done that. That's why we get so many false reports within the system, because these politicians do not take the time to visit these VA facilities and hear from the people who are actually receiving the abuse.
Right.
You cannot go off a statistic report because someone said, I've talked to 100 veterans and 100 veterans, and out of those 100, 80 of them said they're doing fine. So, no, that's a false report. You need boots on the ground to physically go in there yourself, just like Senator Ward did, and find out what's going on with the system. That's why we need her in office in 2016. She cares about the veterans, and she cares about the state of Arizona.
Yeah, she will
get
things
change.
done. She will make noise. Before I forget, if anybody isn't real familiar with what goes on with the VA system, and I found this to be incredibly, this journalist, Benjamin Krause, does an excellent job writing articles and investigating things within the VA on the website disabledveterans.org. I was looking over it today, and I was going back to something you said last month about, and you even showed me the documentation on how your medical records were falsified, and that's happening all over the country. There's an article here in, what state is it? It's in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and there's evidence. They're not prosecuting the doctors that are changing the medical records. They're hiding medical records. They're changing them. So what happened to you, it's happening everywhere. I know Phoenix is ground zero, and we are a huge metropolitan area, and Phoenix serves a lot of veterans, but this is everywhere.
Right, and to put some more emphasis on that as well, this is where the process is so sad. Even with, like I said, with credible documentation, they will still go through the efforts to try to hide the information and keep problems concealed within the VA system. I've went through them several times and explained to them about denied medical care and things that was not being done within the VA system. Even with these emails, I have personal emails from the VA system also to justify this. With these emails that I received, I have like your top-level private officer who makes these changes within these veterans' records, know that these veterans are sending their information, but denying dates of when she received this information, even denying the process of changing medical records. At this point in time, I provided them with the information of doctors lying and doctors falsifying medical records. Until this date, they have refused to respond to that, and they keep delaying the process. That we're working on it, we're getting to it. But this has been almost over a year now, longer than a year, about 2 years now. Wow. And so she's refusing to change anything in that, in my medical records, or this goes on with every veteran. You can go to the patient advocacy office. You're going to have about 20 to 30 people that you, within that hour, that you can see that's coming through there complaining about the exact same issues. Delays, medication. They've been denied medication. So, and this is just not in Phoenix. This is across the nation. You can go onto a group site. They call it VA is Still Lying. And we have to remember that the group site is called VA is Still Lying, and it's operated by a gentleman named Roger. I hope I get his name correct. Roger Gagnon, and the other guy named is Spencer Marshall. Those two gentlemen are doing great things for, for the veterans as well as like what I'm doing. And so we all should support each other.
And they're putting up
the
signs.
And I talked to them. Go ahead.
They're putting up the billboards, right?
Well, they was a part of that billboard. There's two sites. One is called VA is Lying, and there's one called VA is Still Lying.
Okay.
They was part of that. They branched off and became VA is Still Lying, and they branched off because they wanted to do more. They wanted to put up, notification for the veterans, and they also wanted to help veterans, homeless veterans, and go that route as well. So they had different ideas, so that's why they branched off, and they still doing amazing things also. So that's why I'm in connection with them. And we've decided that we're going to try to contact Robert McDonald so he can schedule a meeting with an advocate from every state. And we find a meeting place and meet there so Mr. Robert McDonald can come there and find out what's actually going on the ground and stop looking at these reports that have no merits.
I can't think of a better idea. That would be amazing.
Right. Yeah, so I presented that idea to Roger and Spencer today. They loved the idea. We're going to work on it. He said he's going to send a message to Robert McDonald, an email, and I already posted on my Evincible Vet page that I tried to contact Mr. McDonald, through his phone that he left on the internet, but of course it's still going straight to voice message, or you're not able to get through to him.
Yeah.
So, but we will keep trying until we do make contact with him, and if he decides he wants to sit down and see what's actually going on. Because the VA is not getting better. You cannot see these different sites and everyone is talking about the exact same thing. When will change come?
Right, and it's if it was that bad when it hit, when the scandal hit, and it was Phoenix and it was 40 people died on a secret waiting list, you would think that heads would have rolled and they would have cleaned house to save face for the VA system in honor of the veterans and for the taxpayers whose money pays for the VA hospitals. Instead, one woman, I think it was Hellman, got paid leave, and got a bonus while they were investigating her. She got a huge bonus. It's disgusting.
And I had voiced my opinion about those things too, about VA employees getting additional bonuses up on top of the already, to me, overpaid salary that they're receiving. Like you just say with her secretary right now, her secretary is during the time frame, I would say Mr. Griffin's secretary is probably making somewhere range about anywhere between $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year as a secretary. And do I agree with that? I guess I can. But when you're talking about $70,000 and $80,000 as a secretary, when I know these individuals are sitting there bashing the veterans, giving mean looks to those veterans who are whistleblowers like myself, I've experienced this. I had a secretary ask me, just as of last week, why are you still writing us letters in the VA? Within the VA system. We've just responded to your letters. So these retaliations have taken place even with these secretaries, and I just cannot accept that process. I get mean looks from the top staff members. They don't even speak to me anymore when they see me in the hallways of the VA, which is okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just letting them know that I'm not going to stop forcing my opinion about veterans' rights just because you're giving me mean looks and you're talking bad about me in emails. It's not going to change what I'm doing.
And I'm not naming any names, but anyone that has spoken to you and tried to help you has gotten pressured and almost threatened, maybe?
They wasn't almost threatened. They were threatened. These individuals who have spoken to me, who will speak up for knowing that's what's taking place in the system, has been retaliated against from the top level employees within the Phoenix VA system. And I just find that highly wrong that these individuals are trying to correct the system and help both sides, that now they're being retaliated against, and these individuals now want to leave their positions because of the stress level is so high. And in the past, this is exactly what happened in the past. They left their position because of the stress level, and once again, I have it recorded to prove this fact.
It's ridiculous because they're trying to do what's right for the veterans. And I heard one of them speaking about the problems, and the person basically said there's department meetings and the doctors meet, and then there's a team of patient advocates and they meet. So the patient advocate team thought they should invite the doctors into their meeting so that there was crossover of information and there was better care because of sharing of information. Now, the doctors refused to take part in their meetings. And then when they tried to go in with the doctors to find out about the veterans that they're responsible for advocating for in their job title, they weren't allowed into the meetings with the doctors to find out about their patient.
Exactly, and I'll go further. I'll take it like this: if you're going to always see once the VA system make the news, you're going to hear the head director office respond, and it's going to always say, this is 100% guaranteed, it's always going to say, we respect the rights of the veterans to voice their opinion, but if these veterans ever have any issues or problems, please go to your patient advocacy office, and they will take care of you. That is falsification of information. I've gone to the patient advocacy. When I've gone to the patient advocacy, I've been retaliated against. My records was even confiscated from the patient advocacy office, and they were refused to send those records back to the patient advocacy because they said they have the right to do so. Yet they generated me a letter telling me that they have the right to take those records that I left in the patient advocacy office.
Wow.
And so, and these are the things that, like I said, it takes place. These are other things that they're abusing their power to make sure that they stop the employees from assisting and helping veterans. And this is why something must change within the VA system.
Yeah. And another thing is, financially, they got cut again with funding, and at the same time, the amount of money wasted is ridiculous. And what was that thing? There was recently for Halloween, you just wonder what they spend money on. And here, I was looking at there was a team of staff that were at a party, and they were playing a game called Human Hungry Hippo.
Yeah.
Laying on the ground. Yeah.
Right.
And it appears that taxpayers paid for this whole party. Now, why are federal VA employees dressed up on Halloween having a party? It's just beyond reproach. It's beyond comprehension.
Right. And I'm gonna tell you something else. What's worse in the process also is doing that. I don't know if it was doing that particular event, but I just know during Halloween, one of the VA employees dressed up as one of the whistleblowers by putting on trying to do a pop belly, trying to do the long extension of the ponytail. They dressed up like that whistleblower at the VA facility, and I think that's highly wrong because that's sending a message that, for other VA employees, if you come a whistleblower, we're going to retaliate against you as well. And this should never happen.
No.
VA employees those individuals should be fired, reprimanded, fired, whatever the case may be, and that their positions should be filled with someone who really cares about the veterans.
If that was a private sector, these workplace rules and political correctness, that person would be canned immediately.
Exactly, and now they, of course, they have an investigation going on within the VA, and this could be Googled anytime. You could just pull it up on Google, that information, and it's just so sad that this is what's taking place with VA employees. And I want to put emphasis on this. This is with the VA employees, so we know it's just twice or three times as bad with the veterans themselves who are not even VA employees. There is no protection for us. There's no protection for the VA whistleblowers at any level. And this is why I reached out to Senator McCain's office to make those changes. He refused to do anything about it. I reached out to the, Washington IG team, and I reached out to the VA IG team. And I have that recorded where they telling me if I don't like what's taking place, I just need to do a tort claim lawsuit. And they already know that veterans do not have the resources to go after the VA. And they know lawyers are not taking tort claims if they're not a malpractice or it does not go into millions of dollars that you can win from the VA system. So now all of these claims are being pushed through the system and being denied. And I guarantee you cannot go to the tort claim and find one multi-million-dollar claim that was won at the tort level. You will not find one. It's called zero.
Yeah.
And that's sad. So you won't find any veterans who have won a tort claim. It's simple. And I went through this process. You'll file a tort claim. The tort claim takes 6 months to be processed. They're going to call and deny your tort claim because they already know you cannot win your court. You would not. Most veterans would not go forward to pursue their claim within the federal court because they don't have the resources,
right,
or the funding. So they know this already.
The game's
so
rigged.
Go ahead.
It's rigged. The whole game's rigged.
So the council, the tort claim council process, they'll tell you that they do not work for the VA system. But in return, they do work for the VA system. They protect the VA system to the highest level. Like I said, I have provided them with concrete evidence, concrete documents, and they have found a way to hold me responsible for documents that was filed 7 years later in my medical records. That should have been filed in 2008. They just filed those medical records in 2015. But the tort claim told me that I should have known about the process because I had surgery. Those surgical documentation, I should have known about it.
Well,
and they denied that one claim. Even though I have a few other claims pending, they denied that claim. And of course, they falsified the information as well. But as a veteran, if they feel like I'm gonna give up, I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna keep pursuing this in hopes that other veterans come forward and they do the same thing. That the informed veterans do not give up on this process with the VA. We know it's a huge entity.
Right.
But we can make a difference if we all voice our opinion as one.
Yeah, the more people that see what you're doing and see that you're making a difference and you are making a difference, and they may step up and join you, or they may, if they're in a different area, they may start their own group. And
right.
There just needs to be a grassroots movement to expose the VA and force reform and get the proper, like we were talking about before, we need a team in place in each state, a couple of veterans, at least one, maybe two state legislators, maybe somebody from the medical community, just put together a team in each state. And if enough smart people and people that had some passion for fixing the problem got together, we're Americans. We can fix this. Can be fixed if there's a will. There's not a will right now to do it, and nobody's forcing them to do it.
Right, and you know what? And that's a great point to be made because I look at it this way. I guess what that old saying, "Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer." You know, and I felt like that's what was taking place when, after all of these years that I've been going to Senator McCain's office, is they was never there to help me. They was there just to make sure to hear what I had to say about the VA facility and to make sure that they had that information before anyone else had that information. I just believe they was toying me and stringing me along through the process so they would have this information. So they could call the VA facility and let them know this is what Mr. Barnes has, so you need to be aware of it. And I believe that's what was taking place. Because as you know, when me and you visited the VA facility, the next day, his office called, the VA called his office complaining about why was I at the VA facility.
Right.
And I felt that that's kind of highly wrong to do to a veteran because it's my right to visit the VA facility when I choose to do so. That's my right. I'm entitled to that. So I don't believe the head director's office should have contacted Mr. McCain's office, informing him that I was over there with Senator Kelly Ward, who was actually there to make sure that I'm receiving proper care, or to even check on to see if I'm receiving proper care, or to see the process what we go through.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad that it took that to get Griffin to actually talk to McCain. It had to take you showing up there and making him nervous for him to do
exactly. You know, that he's showing that I'm not leaving. And so, you know, for like I said, for when they contact his office, I can understand the VA process as not taking care of the veterans, because that's what they're used to. That's what they're accustomed to. Where I blame the fault is on John McCain and his constituents within his office. They are not moving fast enough to go to the VA system and demand change, and not request change. They need to demand changes, and they're not doing that. I have invited them many, many times to go to the VA to, you know, to go in there and see exactly what's going on. They have denied every request. So yes, if Senator McCain is not moving forward fast enough, and they're actually contacting his office when I make visits to the VA, I believe that coup is connected between the VA and Senator McCain's office. That's why we need to get a senator in that office who is not going to bow down to the VA, you know, rules and standards and abuse taking place over there, or in any state, I should say that for matter.
Yeah, and it helps also that Senator Ward is not only a doctor, but she's got a degree in healthcare administration, which is a core problem with the VA. So she'd be have legislative power to do reform. She's a doctor. She knows all about insurance companies and how it works, and she knows how to organize a hospital. She's a perfect person to step in and fix it.
Right, exactly. Not only she's doing well in the civilian sector, it's like I saw her on November the 11th during Veterans Day, which she didn't even have to correlate a gathering for veterans to even show up, to show that she's supporting veterans, and to show that, you know, she invited these veterans to show that the things that they're trying to invent for other veterans. And that's what we need. We need individuals like her, like Senator Kelly Ward, who's bringing veterans to veterans so that you can help veterans, you know, achieve the next higher level instead of, you know, being at home always on medication and not finding anything positive to do for themselves or for the community. These are the changes we drastically need so bad, because the VA system is constantly pushing medication down the veteran's throat at a high rate without giving them any prosperous things for the near future so they can survive in the near future. They're just not doing it.
No, and many of them are slipping through the cracks, and some of them just can't take it anymore. 22 a day, that is.
And I'll go another step. I wanted to key in on this factor too. Is I was at the VA facility on this past Saturday, and on November the 11th, Veterans Day, I was talking to a veteran, 83-year-old veteran who went to the VA facility. He was put out. He was just looking for somewhere to relax for a while. He was put out of the VA facility. He ended up getting robbed, beat up, and we saw him. I saw him on that November. So a team called VA's on Patrol came and picked him up, and they took care of this veteran. But it's just sad, an 83-year-old veteran was kicked out of the VA facility when he was just looking for a place to get away for whatever time frame. You should have had those VA employees said, how can we help you, assist you, instead of kicking you out of the VA facility. That's what took place. Now, to fast forward to Saturday, which is this past Saturday, which was the 14th, I guess that's when they had the open house for the veterans. They can go in there on Saturday to get the care they need. I was talking to another veteran, you know, who works there, who is a top-level supervisor. And when I explained the story to them, they said that's the problem with veterans. They always lying, and they just want that's all they want is benefits. And I could not believe I heard this from a top-level employee, and it opened my eyes, and it dawned on me, it's like, this is why we have so many issues at the VA facility. And this veteran that I was talking to is a great friend of mine. Probably won't be a friend of mine in the near future because I don't agree with what they have expressed about veterans. You cannot be a veteran looking for benefits and then, on the other hand, say that's all veterans want is benefits, and they come to the system lying. I don't agree with that.
That's hypocrite. Well,
yeah, exactly.
We're winding down, Ricky, so where can people find you at?
Yeah, well, people can find me at on Evincible Vets. They can go to Facebook, Evincible Vets. You can find me there. You can find all of my information there. Of course, Evincible Vets mean every veteran injured needs compassion, including benefits, liberty, and equality. My job is to assist every veteran to give them information what they need and push them in the right direction. Where if I can't help you, I would definitely find someone who can. And I post everything that I do daily about, what I find in the Phoenix VA facility. I'm going to establish another group where we have one in each state that does the same thing, and hopefully Robert McDonald will pay attention to what we're doing and come to us for the advice and information instead of getting, statistics from some Harvard degree personnel who has never visited a VA facility.
Yeah, and never served, and not a veteran either.
Exactly. These are the things. I mean, he's hired all of his constituents that he worked with, at Procter & Gamble. He needs to change that process. You need to hire the veterans who have had boots on the ground in Afghanistan and Iraq. You need those veterans within the VA system to talk to other veterans, that can relate to it. And this is what he's not doing.
All right, my friend. It was good talking to you. We'll talk to you real soon.
Sounds
Thanks,
great,
you all,
man.
for listening.
Thanks very much.
See you next time.